So, you've signed up for your first HYROX race. Chances are you're already pretty fit. You train consistently, you can run, you can lift, you've definitely done your share of hard workouts. But for a lot of people, there's this quiet little question that just kind of hangs in the background.
And that feeling, that uncertainty, it isn't a problem with your effort, and it's not a problem with your motivation. It's almost always a problem with structure. And that's exactly what we're going to break down right here.
Okay, so the first thing we really need to wrap our heads around is that there's a huge difference between being generally fit and being specifically ready for a HYROX race. Let's just call this the fitness-readiness gap.
And here's where you can really see that separation between raw ability and applied skill. On the left, you've got general fitness. That's your foundation. You can run, you can lift, you can go hard in a workout. But HYROX race readiness over on the right, that's a completely different beast. It's about managing fatigue as it builds up. It's about understanding the specific sequence of the race and being ready for how the demands of one station bleed right into the next. Your fitness is the engine, sure, but race readiness is what lets you actually drive that engine effectively for the entire course.
This brings us to a really key realization. HYROX is a fixed, repeatable race format. It is not just a random collection of tough workouts. The order never, ever changes. And that predictability? That's your single biggest advantage when you're training.
Look, the real challenge isn't the sled push by itself. It's not the wall balls in isolation. It's how your legs feel on the run after the sled push. It's how your heart rate is still sky high from that run when you get to the wall balls. It's this accumulation of fatigue across a very specific sequence that really defines the race. And it's the one thing that most unstructured training completely misses.
And this is exactly why so many general fitness programs, the ones built on variety and just constant high intensity, can actually fail HYROX athletes. They're designed to keep things interesting, which is great, but HYROX doesn't reward randomness. When every single session is just hard, when there's no clear progression and no planned taper, you risk showing up on race day with this deep, accumulated fatigue.
This exact approach is what leads to that nagging feeling of training hard but never feeling ready. Yeah, you're getting fitter, no doubt, but you're not building any real confidence in your ability to handle the specific demands of the race, because your training just doesn't have a central organizing principle.
So what's the solution? Well, it's a pretty simple but really powerful shift in perspective. It's all about putting a race-anchored framework in place, that missing piece that organizes all of your training around the event itself. Race-anchored training is a simple philosophy. Everything you do, your volume, your intensity, how often you see the stations, is all planned intentionally, working backward from your race day. You can think of it as the antidote to random training.
And it all starts with this one question. Just answering this question moves your training from being reactive, just doing a workout for today, to being truly strategic.
And this is the shift in perspective. You stop asking, what workout should I do today, which is all about immediate intensity. Instead, you start asking, what does my body need at this specific point in my race build? That's a question focused on long-term purpose and progression. See the difference?
The logic here is really straightforward. First, you set your anchor, race day on the calendar. Then, you just work backward from there, building out distinct training phases. And within each of those phases, you adjust things like volume and intensity. And, this is critical, you intentionally schedule your recovery. It's not an afterthought. This whole process just removes all the guesswork.
The biggest benefit of this structured approach isn't just physical. The biggest change is mental. It's about moving away from guesswork and into a place of trust, because clarity is what really builds confidence.
And this gets right to the heart of it. Real, durable confidence isn't built by just randomly crushing yourself in workouts day after day. It's built by training with clarity, by understanding why you're doing what you're doing, and trusting that the plan is actually preparing you for what's coming.
The results of training this way? Well, they directly address all those initial feelings of uncertainty. You start to feel calmer as the race gets closer. You recover better between your sessions. You avoid that classic mistake of trying to cram and overtrain at the last minute. You actually arrive at the start line with this quiet confidence, knowing you've done the right work at the right time.
So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. HYROX rewards athletes who train with intention, not just intensity. Structure is what turns your fitness into real race performance.
All right, now that we've established this foundation, our next modules are going to break down the practical side of all this. We'll cover the 4 distinct training phases. We'll dive into how fatigue actually compounds across the stations. We'll talk about why recovery is non-negotiable and how to recognize what true race readiness actually feels like. Remember, the goal isn't just to train harder, it's to train with clarity.